What is up, everyone, and welcome to the debut of the one and only Optimus Dynasty Hour here on the Optimus Fantasy Football Network. Here on YouTube, we are also going to be found on Facebook. We are on Kick. We are on Twitter. We're on John's Twitter. We're on my Twitter. We are on Twitch as well. So you can check us out on any of those platforms, guys. We are thrilled to be here. I have with me, you may remember him as my co-host of the Dynasty Diehards, the one and only Matt Chester. You can find him on Twitter at ffmadchester, because I am thrilled to have as our new co-host, the co-host of the Debbie Devotional, so you know that he knows his Dynasty football, the one and only John Arrington. You know him on Twitter as at Dynasty Coach A. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight with the debut of the Dynasty Show? John, it's great to have you here, man.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk Dynasty again. I have two Debbie shows, and don't get me wrong, I love it. Excuse me, but there's just something about talking Dynasty. That's how I got my start. I'm not Debbie Coach A. You know, I thought about changing it at one point, but here we are. I'm back talking Dynasty. I can't wait, man.
Yeah, man, I'm thrilled. Matt, it's been, what did we decide? About 8 weeks since we streamed together. So it's fantastic to be here, guys. We have a great show locked and loaded for you. But before we go there, I want to remind you, we're not the only show on this network, folks. Tomorrow, the Optimus NFL show with Brad Bolt and Daniel O'Connell will be live at 2 p.m. Eastern. By live, I mean it is a recorded version, but it will be on air there. 2 p.m. Eastern for you guys. And then on Monday, we are back with a mock draft. We're going to do a 12-team 1 QB draft, half PPR, really very basic. And Tuesday, John's back with a Debbie Devotional again at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We are just more than thrilled to have all this going on the network. What can you expect from us, John? What are we going to be giving you here other than just Sage Dynasty information? We've got trades. We've got waiver wire. What else are we going to bring for these guys?
I mean, do we need more than that? I mean, just Sage advice, trade? No. Obviously, we're working in the background. There's a lot going on with the website and everything. Nate and I were talking before we got started. There's obviously a lot going on with that, but there's going to be Dynasty tools. That's going to be the main focus, like helping you set your lineups, helping you make trades, helping you do just about everything that you can do with Dynasty, and actually possibly even Debbie and even C2C stuff eventually. So there's a lot of stuff like that is going to be really cool that we're going to be working on for the website. Obviously, it's going to take a little time, so you got to be patient, but that's why we're giving you the Sage advice for free. And then later on, you get all the cool stuff.
That's right, man. Our number one goal here, there are a lot of companies out here doing this, and you're probably asking yourself, what makes you guys different, right? Well, I don't think any of us are going to sit here and give you hot takes. We're going to follow through on the advice that we give you. We're here to help you win, and we're going to go to the ends of the earth to make sure that you get there. We want you to win championships. We want to hear about them. We want you to jump in our chat and say, hey, guys, thank you for helping me win my third ship in a row. I couldn't have done it without you. That's what we're here for. We want to help you guys. One of the ways that we're going to help you guys starting today, one of the most important things you can do in Dynasty, plain and simple, Dynasty buys, guys. We have to find these players that they're being devalued for whatever reason. Their stock has dropped, and they're players that you should be looking at. John, what does a buy mean to you when we're looking at a player and you're combing rankings and you're looking at these different situations? What screams buy to you when we're talking about these players?
Well, I'll tell you what, my definition of a dynasty buy and a lot of other analysts' definition do not seem to mesh very well, because I swear a lot of times it's like, go buy this guy. It's like, well, yeah, 20 other people are telling you to go buy him. So it's no longer a buy, it doesn't really make any sense anymore. So, I'm always looking for somebody that people aren't talking about, that people aren't freaking out about. Like, obviously the complete opposite side would be like a sell, like, oh, go sell Rashee Rice because of this. Well, it's like, of course people are going to tell you to sell Rashee Rice, like that it's not actual like actionable info and everything. So I'm looking for players that I just feel like aren't properly priced, but that really aren't being talked about. So that's what ends up being a buy for me. And that's what I brought today. Once we get into it, it's just players that I feel like, for whatever reason, they're just not properly priced.
All right. Now, Matt, I know you have a different approach than most people that I've really ever spoken with, talked to, conversed about fantasy football with. I want you to talk just a little bit about kind of what your process is when you look at these players that you should be buying and why you're looking at them as a buy.
Well, it's not that out of line because John's right. It is about cost, right? I don't know players. I don't claim to know players. It's just about market trends and what you think you can do with what you can buy, what you can do with that in the future, how it's going to grow in your pocket, or how it's going to fall once you bring it to the market, get rid of it, and then watch as the market floods with that player trying to be sold, and all of a sudden, you sold at the peak of it. It's all about timing. It's all about market trends. I am not a football expert. That's what I go to John for. John's got this lovely lady named Beth, and she tells him which players are good and which players are bad. And I trust John on that. In Beth, we trust. And I just try to bring that to the market however I can.
I was going to say that it's perfect. It's really a perfect combo because I am the player guy. That's my thing. Over the years, that's really what I've done is I've gone out of my way to really dive into player values and all that kind of stuff. Matt's more of the market value kind of guy, trying to take advantage of the market and everything. So you're going to get all of that. And then obviously Nate is just an overall great dynasty player and all that kind of stuff. So like you're going to get all of that info, but you're going to hear from different sides. And if me and Matt actually agree on a trade, that's when it's going to be fire, or it's actually going to destroy your team. Either way.
I love that you struggled to say what I bring to the table, John. It's a way to make your co-host feel good.
He's an all-around good dynasty player.
All right. Well, you know what? I'll take that. I'm kind of like the film and analytics guy, right? I like a combination of those things. I like to look at a player situation as a whole. And that's what I bring to this, is that I want to look at what the front office is doing. I want to know what the coaching staff is doing. What is their scheme? How are these players working with this coaching staff? Are there going to be problems with the locker room? Is it going to be a Stephon Diggs situation where we watch the guy pitch a fit at the end of the season and then he tanks for the last 5 or 6 games? I want to know those things as a dynasty manager because that's going to affect how I draft. It's going to affect how I trade. Right now, I want nothing to do with Stephon Diggs. And John, I know you and I have had a handful of conversations about that. But this is a player where I don't like the attitude. And if that translates to the Houston locker room, what we saw in Buffalo, I don't really want him on my roster. He's going to screw me in the playoffs. There are players at that same value or that I can get for less that I think have more value. That's how I look at things. So that's my weird way of saying I do have value, John. Damn it. And with that, guys, we're going to get into our first buy. And this is one that I brought to the table here. And this is one I'm surprised to be bringing to you, but it's Marquise Hollywood Brown in Kansas City. I'll give you my quick spiel real quick. I want to hear what you guys think about this. It's situational. We know that Brown has that burst of speed. He's quick. He can run those underneath routes. He can run the slant routes. He can do the kind of stuff that Tyreek Hill did, right? They can run motion plays to get him full speed at the line that gets him an advantage against cornerbacks. These are things Kansas City's willing to do. And while we're waiting on Xavier Worthy to break out, and while Rashee Rice is still there waiting to get in more trouble before he kind of bones out here, I think that Marquise Brown is a guy who is going to be very talented in this offense. I know there have been consistency issues, but this feels like a place where he can actually fix some of that stuff. John, let's start with you. What do you think of Marquise Brown as a buy in Kansas City?
Oh, sorry, it would not let me unmute. Well, first of all, I can't buy him because I actually have him in every single league. So that's the first part. Second thing is sleeper. You completely screwed me up by actually changing his name to Hollywood Brown now, because like every time I look, I'm like, who the hell is H Brown? And then I'm, oh yeah, okay, now I get it. But getting back to the actual player. Oh, you're muted. Yeah, you're still muted.
I hit the button 4 times. I'll have you know. All of our editors told us, Marquise Brown, don't use Hollywood. So here I am using Marquise Brown, and the game's changed. Go figure.
Yeah, they finally changed his name. I don't know like what happened. Maybe I don't know if like he sent a letter in, was like, hey guys, it's Hollywood. But yeah, I love the player. I love the buy. I think people kind of freak out because of last year, when he didn't have Kyler for the first 10 games, he was dealing with backup players.
Right.
And then he was also dealing with the injury. That's really the only like big concern that you can really say is he's dealt with these foot injuries, and maybe we have to be a little concerned about that. So I can't guarantee you he's going to play a full 17 games or anything like that. I can guarantee you that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback he's played with, and we saw what he was able to do with a healthy Kyler, not necessarily last year, but the year prior, and what he was able to do when it was just him. DeAndre Hopkins was suspended and all that, and it was just the Hollywood Brown show. I think it's going to be a lot more of the same. Don't get me wrong, I love Xavier Worthy as well, but I mean, there's no reason with Patrick Mahomes that Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy can't both, and Travis Kelce can't all eat.
Well, and if you look at the team's running game, I mean, they're going to be leaning into Isaiah Pacheco again, which is fine. Guy's a very efficient running back. I love him. I love him at cost right now in Dynasty for the most part. And I think something, so you mentioned his injuries. He's in an offense where there's going to be a lot of pressure for him to be the guy, which is why I think he can be the guy. They're not going to have to give him as much volume, but he's so explosive. He's going to do more with that volume in Kansas City. Matt, are you buying Hollywood Brown right now, or are you just going the opposite way of me here? Are you selling him?
I'm with John. I would buy him if I didn't have him, but very fortunately I have him. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is that he's surprisingly young. I thought about this a few days ago, and he's 1 year older than T. Higgins. You wouldn't think that because he seems like he's been around forever. I think he's on his third team, but he's probably in his best situation right now. And you mentioned every route that he's good at, but you didn't mention the 9 routes. The dude is a speedster. That's his main thing. And so if Pat Mahomes can hit him deep just a few times, not only will you see him produce for you, but you can see his value rise in Dynasty in case you feel like pivoting off. And I will tell you this, as far as him being a buy, I just went to go check right now to make sure that he was 1 year within T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, all these youngsters, right? All these youngsters. He's not. He's 27 now. His birthday was 2 days ago on June 4th. So now that he's 27 years old, he's dead. So
yeah.
Once people start figuring out that he's way past the age apex, let them know that he's 27 years old and he's basically in a coffin, and you're doing them a favor by taking Hollywood Brown off their hands. And, I've seen him go for around the 206 in rookie drafts. I think that a future second and third would very comfortably get him, and you could probably get, a Rashid Shaheed back or something like that.
Sure. Okay, guys, I want to move on to Chester. You've got one coming up here. We didn't have time for the graphic for it, so I had to make a banner here. But you have got quarterback Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions as a buy. He's currently QB 17 in Dynasty. I really love this. Matt, let's talk more about Jared Goff and why you think he's a buy right now.
Well, last year he was quarterback 7 overall. I don't think age matters that much when it comes to quarterbacks in Dynasty, because what matters is their longevity. And it's not an age thing. It's a contract thing. It's a situation thing. How long are they going to be doing what they're doing? And this is just a general question for anybody in Dynasty. How long are they going to be able to do what they're doing? You like to look at a 2 to 3 year window, sometimes barely more than that. But with quarterbacks, if a guy's 29 years old, he's been through the mill. He's a retread quarterback that just went to a Lions team that's up and coming, and they've got a sophomore Sam Laporta. They've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was very briefly the highest paid wide receiver in the league. They've got Jameson Williams, who they're starting to integrate a little bit more, and the best non-pass catching player that they have is Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a pass catcher. So even his points are going to count towards Jared Goff. And I don't understand how the quarterback 7 last year, who just got signed to a massive contract, not massive, but substantial and long-term contract in a team that's up and coming, that he's part of their future. And the players around him are only going to get more secure and better. Quarterback 7 might be the ceiling for him, but quarterback 17, where he's ranked in Dynasty, is so far away from his floor. It's insane. He's going to be a top 10 quarterback for the next 4 or 5 years. And why wouldn't you pay a simple first and a second, which you could do right now? You could probably pay a simple first and a second in 2025 rookie picks and get Jared Goff and have a QB1 over the next 4 years. It seems silly not to. And that's all I have to say about that.
Look, I'm with you.
In our hearts.
This offense is just extremely loaded, right? And they're loaded for the long term. They've bought into the Dan Campbell system. This team loves their head coach. They want to run through a brick wall for him, right? I don't know what's not exciting about that. And then you look at Goff, he's only 29, guys. Like, we're not anywhere near any sort of, he's 10 to 11 to 12 years from being anywhere close to done, right? Looking at what quarterbacks are doing now.
I'll tell you this, even Dak Prescott is way undervalued, and he's going at the latest in the early 4th round of Superflex startup drafts.
Yeah.
Goff is in the same situation, but has more security, has more pass catchers around him, is the same age, and is for some reason going probably in a full 2 rounds later than Dak. And Dak is undervalued. So Goff is criminally undervalued. Definitely a buy.
John, do you want to talk some sense?
What's up, buddy? What's up, bud?
Say hi to everybody. Say hi.
What's up, Jackson? So I completely agree. The only thing I'll add, because you guys already basically touched on just about everything we need to say about Goff, is 2 things. One, if Jameson Williams actually does grow and get better this year, then you're adding huge playability to Jared Goff. On top of everything else, the Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Jahmyr Gibbs, the Sam Laporta, and all that kind of stuff. I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to happen, but obviously they're talking him up and all that kind of stuff. But that would just give him that added play, that added big playability, scoring a touchdown on a 50-yard bomb or whatever.
Taking the top off the defense is huge for a passing offense.
Yeah. So there's nothing I was looking at. Actually, I kind of wanted to make Goff my buy, and I don't even know why I didn't, because I love it. QB17 is just dumb. I'm sorry. It's so dumb. And Toronto Dave's in the chat. And he's saying 12-team Superflex PPR. Oh,
sorry, that's my bad.
Lamar Jackson or Goff and Drake London. This feels like a Chester kind of deal,
yes,
trading like a 1 for 2 kind of deal, breaking it down. Honestly, I love it. I mean, everyone, well, I guess I'm new to this podcast and everything, but everyone's going to find out that I'm not a Lamar Jackson stan. So this is kind of an easy one for me anyway. But I mean, even if you take away my hatred, and I'm doing air quotes for Lamar Jackson, I still think that's a really solid deal anyway.
It's a cross-positional leverage trade, and you got to go with the Drake London side of it, of course.
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, I love the buy. It's QB17 is just wild. I get, like you said, maybe QB7 is his ceiling. But it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't care. Even if QB12 is the ceiling, you should still be a lot closer to QB12 than QB17. Right. And then the other thing I was going to say real quick is, you remember how much people hated Jared Goff a couple of years ago. I mean, he was going to be replaced by Malik Willis, and they were going to draft him at 2 overall. And I mean, you could get Jared Goff for like a 3rd round pick, like a throw in and deals. I want to find the next Jared Goff. Like, that's what we need to be focused on, even with these buys, is trying to find who the hell is the next Jared Goff, this player that is being kind of tossed aside, like no one cares about him. Honestly, I'm putting my money on Sam Howell right now. I think that he could easily be.
I could see that
the next Jared Goff.
Ooh. In Seattle, though. Do you think he's the successor to Geno at this point? Do you think?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, I agree too, but I'm just asking. Like, is that what you're seeing, John? You think he's a successor in Seattle?
I don't think he's going to start day 1 or anything like that.
Sure,
I think,
of course not.
Geno's earned enough to be the
they've already said as much.
Yeah,
they've already said as much.
Geno's I'm not saying
starter.
day 1, but
right.
I mean, Geno's like a high end backup level QB. I don't think he's like a high end. I don't think he's a great starter or anything like that. And so it's pretty easy to see Sam Howell getting touches, getting on the field at some point. I can't guarantee when it is or anything like that. And you can get him for nothing. I mean, you can literally get him for throw in in a deal, a 3rd round pick, whatever. And then next thing you know, you have a starting QB.
You know who we might have missed our window on? Former number 1 overall pick Jared Goff is former number 1 overall pick Baker Mayfield. I think we might have missed our buy low window on him.
We might have missed that. I agree.
We?
Well,
I got all the
okay.
Baker, baby.
I have a lot of Baker, but yeah.
I'll tell you what, it was not a
Anybody who
fun
doesn't
ride.
have him, you missed. Because
It was not a fun ride. Being a Baker truther, I'm like, no, I swear he's good, guys. And everyone's like, okay, John, go sit in your corner. You know, I'm like, no, guys, he's good. And then finally, I'm redemption, baby.
All right, guys. So I want to move on to this one, John. This is yours, and I really, really like this one. It's DJ Moore in Chicago, guys. Go buy DJ Moore. He is set up to have a massive season. He already had a really, really good 2023 in an offense that, if you ask people on the street, would say was one of the worst in football. Now, whether or not that's true, they weren't, but they weren't great. DJ Moore had a great season. Now he's got Caleb Williams. They brought in Rome Odunze, and they brought in Keenan Allen to take some of that pressure off. They brought in DeAndre Swift. This is an offense that could be very good. John, do you think DJ Moore is a wide receiver 1 in Chicago? Is that why he's a buy right now? I mean, there's a lot of shade, and people are thinking, well, this is a Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze offense. You disagree?
Well, remember, I'm the Debbie guy. I'm the college football guy, and I've never been on the Rome Odunze was at the same level as Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. And when everyone was like, oh, you know, if MHJ and Neighbors weren't in this class, Rome Odunze would be the wide receiver 1 in any other class and all that. Like, if you actually go through and look at who the wide receiver 1 was in all of the previous classes, there's like 1 year that you might actually say Rome Odunze would be the wide receiver 1. And it wasn't a good year. He's not beating Justin Jefferson. He's not beating Garrett Wilson. He's not beating, I'm trying to, obviously, Jamar Chase or anything like that. So, like, let's get that out of here. But Rome Odunze is a fine wide receiver. I think he's gonna struggle a little bit, especially having 2 great players in front of him with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. But yet, Rome Odunze has actually moved ahead of DJ Moore in dynasty value, in dynasty ranks. It's pretty wild, man. I
mean, I can justify that on age, I suppose. If you want to
DJ
look
Moore's
at
26. He's 26.
Well, 27. He's 27.
Okay.
And to be
he's
fair,
dead. Never mind. He's completely
we're
dead.
going
Exactly.
He's dead. DJ Moore is going into year 7. Rome Odunze is going into year 1. So if you're from a dynasty, if you're an ageist in dynasty, that's something that you probably have Odunze over DJ Moore, which from that perspective, I understand. However, from a production standpoint, in a 2-year, if we're looking at a 2-year window, which is how I tend to look at dynasty values here, I stick within a 2-year window. DJ Moore is infinitely more valuable in a 2-year window than Rome Odunze is, because you're not getting that from him this year. DJ Moore was wide receiver 6 in PPR last season. He had 136 targets in an offense that wasn't handing out much in the way of targets. Now he's in an offense.
Can we speak on that? Because I think
we can talk about that.
I think Justin Fields had a 9-pass game, 9-attempt game.
Yeah,
is that right? Yeah. So in a 9-attempt game, you have an offense that this guy has 136 targets. He's a target getter, and not only that, he can do something with them. How many of DJ Moore's targets were at the line of scrimmage last year, and he just busted it out and made it to the end zone 60 yards down the field?
40-yard guy, yeah.
The guy's very talented, and for the first time in his career, we've talked about Terry McLaurin like this. We've talked about so many players, how they're gonna finally break out when they finally get a quarterback. DJ Moore did it last year with a quarterback who's still on his rookie contract and not even starting anymore. A first-round rookie is not starting anymore. And DJ Moore, that was his best quarterback so far. Now he's with the 101.
Are we sure it wasn't Tyson Bagent, though, his best quarterback so far? I mean,
could be.
94 of 143 last season.
That was his point, or to Chester's point, though. Tyson Bagent was just throwing it to the line of scrimmage, and then DJ Moore would go run for 40 yards. So, I mean, you can say whatever the hell you want to say. It's just DJ Moore's a stud, and I mean, that's just all it is. And DJ Moore, he's just wide receiver 19 is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's so low.
I've added 20% DJ Moore this offseason. So I've got about 15 leagues. I bought him for the 107. I bought him for the 108. And what was the other one? I bought him for T. Higgins and Gabe Davis, and I was even able to get a third back on top of that.
That's
DJ Moore's screaming by.
I like T. Higgins, but there's too many questions about where he's playing. I like that. Now here's one, guys. I'm going to pivot to my next one, and I don't think you guys are going to like this one, but I don't really care. This is Dynasty. I'm saying right now, guys, I think Michael Penix is a screaming buy in Dynasty because there's so much bias with this pick. People wondering.
I just threw up a little bit.
I know, right? And when I wrote this down, when I was thinking about these and kind of running through some stuff and look at some things, and I know, and John, you and I had the same opinion of Michael Penix, the Senior Bowl. Like, dude, this guy's backup level. However, I think we both had the same conversation at the Senior Bowl house, was that if Michael Penix goes somewhere where he can sit for a few seasons, I think there's a shot at him actually being a decent level NFL quarterback. He gets to sit behind Kirk Cousins for at least the next 2, maybe 3.
Which one of those guys is older?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question here. But you know what, though?
Sure.
And I hear, okay, lots of conversations about quarterback age, but then here we are saying, oh, Jared Goff's only 29. Like, why are we writing him off for age? So why are we writing Michael Penix off? He's a little bit older.
We like old quarterbacks because they've stuck around in the league. We don't like old quarterbacks because they came into the league late.
But here, okay.
Yeah, we don't love Van Wilder.
But
speak for yourself.
In times past, I think this is a fair assessment. A guy spends 5 years in college, 6 years in college, and you're wondering, well, why the hell didn't he come to the pros sooner? He could have. He was eligible. Like, what's the holdup here? Why was this their developmental issue and getting him to be pro ready? But then you have to also factor in the COVID year, right? So a lot of these guys lost a full year of development. And I would be on the same page with you with these older quarterbacks. And with some of them, I am. Like, Joe Milton could have come out early. He chose not to. He needed another year of development at Tennessee. He's got a road to being a starter in the NFL if he ever even gets there. Penix, on the other hand, I mean, if you really look at it, it really was just, you lost that COVID season. A lot of Pac-12 teams played 4 or 5 games. There wasn't a whole lot of competition. He felt like he needed the extra year in school, so he took it. He's a smart enough guy to where I think if he spends 2 years behind Cousins, I don't think he's going to be like a consistent high-end QB1, but I could see him sneaking into that QB11, QB12 slot maybe a couple times, maybe even be consistently in that Derek Carr slot where he's QB14, 15, 16 every season for like 5 years. That's Penix's ceiling. But for what he's going for now, he becomes a value at Superflex when he finally does start. I'm willing to pay that and stash him in some of my deeper leagues on the bench and wait and see what happens. Or you put him on your taxi. You trade for him, you taxi him. You've got 2 years to wait and see what he does without really worrying about it. And for a guy who's got first-round draft capital, I mean, I just think it makes sense.
I get what you're saying, and obviously, in Superflex, quarterback's king. You got to have as many. We've seen, 60-plus quarterbacks start in the NFL each season the past 2 seasons. So I get it. And I like adding backup QBs as much as I can, if it makes sense. I think we're a little too close to rookie drafts and people still saying, oh, I spent 112 on Michael Penix Jr. I spent 203 on Michael Penix Jr., whatever, for that you can actually get him cheap yet. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it eventually. So I don't mind the call of buying him cheap. I don't know if you can actually do it yet because people still drafted him in their rookie drafts knowing that he's going to be sitting for years or whatever, and they still spent a pretty decent pick. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the majority of my drafts, he went before 204, 205, sometimes in the first round. And so I just don't – I don't know if somebody's turning around. You're still muted. I don't know if there's –
It's probably a good thing.
So I'm with John on this one. Wait until people think he's Hendon Hooker and then buy him.
I think people already think he's Hendon Hooker.
Not where
I'm seeing him go. I'm consistently
also,
seeing him go at the back half of the second, early part of the third.
I've never seen that.
So if I see him going, I'll take him at the back half, the first part of the third.
Oh, easily. I've never seen him.
At worst, he's a guy you can plug in on bye weeks, and when a quarterback gets injured, at best, he's a super flex starter. So I don't know.
What's up,
I mean,
Mike?
that's probably
Matt
fair.
Ward?
Yeah, it's Ward, baby. What's up, Matt Ward? Good to see you, man. Love you showing up out here. All right, guys, we're going to move to some sell candidates here now that we've run through some fun ones. Sell candidates.
Can I get one more buy-in?
Fine.
All right. Kamara's pretty much free. You can get Kamara for just if you're in a contending situation, there's going to be John. You could probably speak to this. There's going to be resurgence of young running backs next year, right? So we don't know any running backs that are very secure right now. There's maybe 5, right? Maybe 5 young running backs that are secure in the league. So dynasty and redraft running back rankings should be way tighter than they are. And with that being said, Kamara has always been an RB1 in points per game and a very high-end RB1 in points per game. And it's because he's so good at catching passes, because he catches passes within 10 feet of his quarterback who can't throw more than 10 feet. So pick up Kamara if you're contending. Yep. He's probably available in a few of your leagues for a price that you love. And he's only 28 years old. I thought he was like 30 or something. Kamara's wonderful. It's not me saying that as a Saints fan. Just go get a bunch of free high-end RB points.
I think that's hilarious, because my other buy was Kendre Miller, and so,
which is a good one.
I think the point is that go get that backfield. I think the Saints are going to be a better offense this year, and I don't even hate Kamara as a buy either, because he's going as RB25, and Kendre Miller's going as RB32. You can get both for pretty cheap, and you can have both options. And then if one of them gets hurt, if Kendre is able to actually stay healthy, they can be a 1-2 punch. And we've obviously, I know it's a different regime and all that kind of stuff, but we've seen the Saints use a 1-2 punch with Kamara in the past. So I don't think it would even be a bad thing, even if they're both healthy, they're both touching the field, they can both score points for you. And we know obviously bye weeks, injuries, all that kind of stuff. Just go buy Kamara and or Kendre Miller.
I love that.
John, what's Kendre Miller's ceiling this season, specifically in 2024? So does he see like a kind of a high-end RB3 flex play? Do you think he maybe sneaks into RB2?
His ceiling is Kamara gets hurt, and then he could be a RB1, in that, and he might be a low end RB1, if that happens. But he's gonna catch the ball. He has receiving ability. He's an electric running back, and I really think that injury just made people hate him or think that he's bad. But Kendre Miller is not a bad running back.
No, he's not.
If Kamara stays healthy all year long, then his ceiling probably is a low end RB2, something like that. But he probably realistically more of an RB3.
Okay. And I'm okay with that, especially at cost right now. That doesn't bother me at all. Guys, thank you for that. Those are some really good buys. They're probably better than mine, but you know what? I'm the host, so I get to do whatever the hell I want, right? All right, guys, let's get into some dynasty sells. And the first one I want to highlight is one from John here. This is an interesting one because I didn't see this one coming. We're going to start with Anthony Richardson, the quarterback in Indianapolis. If you forgot who he was because he got injured so early last season, he has been called freakishly athletic, the most freakishly athletic, the most athletic quarterback in football, and just an absolute freak of nature. But John, why are we saying sell here?
Well, my biggest thing with him, and I just realized that my computer's not plugged in. I should probably do that. But my biggest thing with Anthony Richardson is, as much as people, obviously we know he's a athletic freak and all that kind of stuff. We know he can big man run fast. But the thing is, in college,
big man run very fast.
Well, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, very big man run very fast.
Yes.
But in college, he really didn't run that much. And so, when people were saying, oh my God, he ran a 4.440 and this and that. And I'm like,
4.340.
Damn it. I'm not giving him credit at all. Man.
And he's 255. That's massive.
Yeah, actually, I think he's up to 325 now. But so I was always concerned because I'm like, all right, well, that wasn't really his game. Even though he obviously has that ability, he didn't really run in college. And so he wasn't really used to it. Then he goes into the NFL and he starts running like a madman because he's, obviously he's seeing the NFL defenses are a little faster, a little bigger, a little stronger. I don't want to throw it. So now he starts running. Now he starts getting hurt because he wasn't really a runner in college. And then yet people are like, oh yeah, he's my QB7. Wait, the dude was on the field for 2 games. I get he scored some touchdowns in those games, but if you look at the actual peripheral numbers, these were not exciting statistics. He wasn't completing a lot of passes, but he did score some touchdowns. And so people are excited about that. But then he got hurt and he kept getting hurt. And I'm just really concerned about if he continues to run like a Cam Newton or something like that, he's probably going to get hurt. And if he tries to throw more, he is not going to be good at football because he's not a good passing quarterback. So QB7 is just way too much. Like if you can get to a Kyler Murray or something like that, and maybe even a Kyler Murray plus, depending on, yeah, you probably can.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe so much more in Kyler Murray and like what he's already done. He's always been a top 5 scoring QB in fantasy every year that he's been healthy and everything. And he came back last year off that injury, did exactly what we wanted to see, scored a lot of like top 12 games coming right back. Now he added Marvin Harrison Jr., another year of Trey McBride. If you can go get a Kyler Murray plus or something like that, I'm easily selling Anthony Richardson, because I just don't understand how he's still QB7 for people when everything we've seen is that like his level or the type of play that he did last year is not sustainable. So why are we going to hold him to that standard?
Well, I think to answer your question, why are we holding him to that standard? Because people fall in love with the athleticism, right? We see this not the same player, not the same mentality, not the same attitude. I just think the same level of like exalting someone because of things we saw in college and because of things they did in pro days in the combine. Johnny Manziel, freak athlete, right? The guy did things at Texas A&M that you didn't see players do. The way that he operated on the field, the way that he evaded tackles, he evaded pressure, the way that he threw on the run, the way that he used his brain to make these absolutely inane plays. There are a lot of reasons Johnny Manziel didn't work out, but I think we're seeing kind of a similar thing with the athleticism side with Anthony Richardson, where he was able to get away with this stuff at Florida, right? Because we're talking about the SEC, and this is a school that historically runs more than they throws. This is where Tim Tebow thrived. And I think we got this idea of what he could do at the NFL level. We saw flashes of it until he got hurt last season, but we didn't see him put together a full season. There are a lot of people at that QB7 ranking that are betting on him putting it together for a full season. If he does, all of a sudden that QB7 ranking is probably too low, right? Then we're moving into, if he puts a full season together, what we think he can do, QB2, QB3, QB4, it could get out of control. If he doesn't, we're looking at him being back like, oh shit, this guy's QB20. Whoops, our bad. So I see there's a lot of variation where he can end up at the end of next season. QB7 is just not it, right? That's 2 in the middle. So it's hedging your bets, hoping that he lands either high or low. You're kind of somewhere in the middle, selling him, buying him, whatever. I'm with you, though. I think at a QB7, get rid of him because he's more likely to land in that QB20 range than he is QB3.
What do you think, Matt?
I'm for it. I'm curious to see where he lands at the end of this season compared to Joe Burrow. That's where I am.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm with Nate. Like I don't think there's going to be an in between. I really think he's either going to be one of the best quarterbacks.
He's going to be Cam Newton or he's going to be Justin Fields, right?
Yep, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he won't even be a starter next year or something to that effect. Like I'm not calling that. I'm just saying like I really do feel like it's going to be one or the other side. It's not going to be, he was QB12. Like that just.
So I want to ask you two questions. One is to see your bias, and one is to see what you want to do. What percentage Anthony Richardson are you at in rostership, and what would you sell him for?
I'm at 0%.
There you go.
I'm at 0 as well.
All right, Mr.
Oh, I mean, his cost.
This is the season to sell sour grapes, is what John is saying.
His cost was so high last year, and I mean, honestly, like even in the range where I could have drafted him, like CJ Stroud was still available, and I was never taking him over CJ Stroud. You know, you were getting Stroud at like 106 in some of these drafts, and you know, then people were like, "Oh man, you should have taken Anthony Richardson." I'm like, no. I think the Stroud guy might hit, you know. But yeah, so I don't have any. I mean, honestly, like it's just cost. Like I never believed in him, and especially at cost. Like I'm fine with him, and like especially like last year in rookie drafts, I would have been fine with him towards the end of the first round. But he was going at like 105, 106, wherever. And like I said, there were still other good players that I was just willing to take over him. Now this year, he's QB7 overall. And so like there's never been a time for me to buy him to go to have any on my roster. Now, where you asked where I would buy him?
What's your price?
He is
prices, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Like I have them. I have them right around that like Jared Goff range, as far as like price and everything. Like I actually I have them ahead of Goff, but we were just talking about how much we all love Goff. So like this is not me saying like I hate Anthony Richardson, I think he's terrible or whatever. I just think that he has a lot to prove.
I wonder if the arbitrage difference between Anthony Richardson and Goff is 2 firsts.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure that's the thing. Like we were talking about it before, but you can get Goff in like at least a first, if not more, on top. And yeah, I would easily make that deal. Like that's why Anthony Richardson is a sell, because you can make those kind of moves.
So another sell here. We're going to move on. We're going to get over to Matt Chester here, because this is an interesting one. So first, before we get to this one, I want to highlight a question in the chat because it plays to yours. More likely to take the job, Sam Howell in Seattle or Drew Lock over Daniel Jones in New York? Matt, your answer is very important here to this next sell candidate. So I want to know specifically, do you think Drew Lock has a legitimate shot at taking the starting job over Daniel Jones for the New York Giants in 2024?
Man, I do not know how to answer that question. That is such a good question. It's such a good question.
It is a good question.
We're going to see what Drew Lock does in New York while Daniel Jones is coming back from injury. I don't know how much they want to give Daniel Jones a chance to prove himself. But this is, look, Nate, you were talking about film versus analytics earlier. I am mostly a non-player take guy. I love market value and situation and narratives. And this is the best question that Mr. Scampers, this is the best question you've ever asked. And you've been on the show every week for 8 months.
Yeah. I love it.
I don't know, man.
Okay.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I really don't think that Drew Lock is going to take it as bad as I think Daniel Jones is. They obviously paid him a shit ton of money. That does matter, So I don't think Drew Lock is taking over. That being said, that doesn't mean that I think that Daniel Jones is great or anything like that. But I think they've invested so much into him. They're going to try and make it work. Drew Lock is a nice backup to have, and obviously Daniel Jones hasn't proven that he can 100% stay on the field and all that kind of stuff. So, he could easily touch the field, even if we're not saying he's getting benched or anything like that. But yeah, I don't think Drew Lock is stealing that job.
John, do they have any replacement quarterbacks coming up from college next year? Because that's another thing, is that
not really.
Seattle has Geno. Now, if Geno gets hurt, Sam Howell, with the weapons in Seattle, could do some damage, could make his mark. And if he gets the job next year, if he's their guy going forward, he's just a really gross supercharged Will Levis, I guess. I don't know how to call it. I don't really see Drew Lock. He's the starter to start off the year in New York. They don't have any weapons except for the rookie Malik Neighbors. So I don't know what Drew Lock is going to do. Very temporary points. Drew Lock is a very easy wait till he gets some points and sell him. He's free on a lot of leagues, so there's that. But
all right, well, let's talk about your sell.
I think I talked myself into Sam Howell just now.
Yes, we love it.
I was already talked into it, but let's talk about your sell here. We got Malik Neighbors. You're saying to sell Malik Neighbors out of this giant system. Let's hear it.
Malik Neighbors is a top 10 dynasty wide receiver without ever seeing the field. Now, in past years, Jamar Chase was probably about wide receiver 9 when he was a rookie. And this guy's not Jamar Chase. He's just not. I'm sorry. Like, it's just too high of a price. And when the price is as high as it is on Malik Neighbors, and if you could get, I'm seeing him go consistently at 103, which is crazy that he's going above Jaden Daniels, who might get more rushing yardage than Malik Neighbors does get receiving yardage in his first year. Situation is more important than we want to take into account. We always think that we're going to be, the smartest guy in the room by knowing that, well, in Dynasty, it's talent over situation. It's not, because every 3 years, you should almost have an entirely new roster. In Dynasty, you should constantly be playing the game. You should be arbitraging. You should be moving up and down at the same time if you can. And just the more that the money moves, the healthier that the economy is. And Malik Nabers is not going to come out popping with Daniel Jones. The offense isn't good. The quarterback isn't good. The situation isn't good. And he's going at the 103. Give me 2 firsts and let me buy him back for a first and a second later.
Look, I'm with you. All right. I don't even think he was the best wide receiver on his own team last season, to be honest.
Okay.
And
now
I know.
I'm
not that high on Brian Thomas, of course. Bye, John. It was a nice run, though. I'll send you your severance check.
We almost made it through one, man.
We almost made it through
Wait,
one.
John's getting a severance check? I'm out.
Do I get a severance check?
That'll be my first check.
So I'm kind of Jamar Chase. You have these situations where a player will essentially set an expectation for other players coming from that school, that situation, that coaching system, right? We see it in the NFL when guys come out of the Shanahan system. We expect certain things out of these players, right? Like Jimmy Garoppolo goes into the Shanahan system. He comes out of San Francisco. You expect him to operate in that way when he goes to Vegas. He didn't, which we all learned the hard way, anybody who bought into him last season. But I think is the same thing. Some people did, Chester. We didn't. We as a community, the we crowd of Jimmy G believers, who is not me. But I think, are we running into the same thing with LSU wide receivers? And I'm not saying that Malik Nabers and Brian Thomas aren't really good receivers, but they're not Jamar Chase. If they went to another school, if they didn't go to LSU, which we have this idea that the wide receivers coming out of LSU at this point are elite for whatever reason, coming out of the system, whatever it is, the quarterbacks. But we have this idea that they're elite. Are we elevating these 2 receivers, and did they get elevated in this draft because they were LSU receivers? If these guys are at Texas Tech with a similar level quarterback to Jaden Daniels, are they as heralded because they're not at LSU? And maybe this is a silly question, but I wanted to throw it out there because I don't know, man. I don't love Malik Nabers. I don't love Brian Thomas at their draft capital. And in fantasy, I really don't love him at their draft capital. So, Chester, you saying to sell Nabers just kind of set me off on a little tirade there. Probably turn it into a short tomorrow so people can roast me on TikTok. But hey,
I'm not even worried about where he came from. I'm worried about where he is right now, and I do not love that situation. Right. And you know, Dynasty is not as long-term as we want it to be. The markets are constantly shifting.
2 years.
He's the 103 right now. He's not going to stay there. I promise you that.
No.
So here's the thing. Nate, you're wilding tonight.
I know.
You're wilding, man. All right. Malik Nabers is an extremely good prospect. He's an extremely good player.
He's good. Yes, I said that.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be Jamar Chase to still be a quality wide receiver. But that being said, to Chester's point, wide receiver 9 is a little wild too. So, like, I have him as wide receiver 14. Now, it's not a huge difference, but I mean, there's value in that. You know, if you can sell him at wide receiver 9 prices, get something else, like do that kind of thing, I'm okay with it. But I mean, like, yes, he probably will fall short of expectations, but he is a very good wide receiver. He is going to elevate Daniel Jones and that offense because he's that good of a wide receiver. Now, if he had gone to Arizona and MHJ was in New York, then I'd be having the same conversation about MHJ and saying, man, we got to lower MHJ a little bit. So, but that doesn't mean that they're bad all of a sudden. So like,
I didn't say he was bad.
Well, you started talking about Texas Tech and all this other stuff.
I'm just saying,
because he's at LSU.
All I'm asking, and I thought I prefaced it with this, is that, yes, these guys are very good receivers, but are we elevating their stock? And is the NFL elevating their stock because they're coming from LSU instead of like they went to Texas Tech and played? That's all I'm asking. So I guess the answer—
that's every year, though. I mean,
it is every year.
You get perks by playing in the SEC. That's just something that happens. And so, but you also have to earn it. I mean, you play against these difficult teams,
and that is a very fair point.
And he was one of the most productive wide receivers in all of college football last year in the SEC, playing against these amazing defenses. And he was still that damn good with another first-round NFL draft pick on the other side. He was still that damn good. So I just want to make sure that the listeners understand Malik Nabers is damn good.
Yeah,
he can also still be a sell.
I'm not saying that he's not good, but he is a sell. fantasy football, and maybe this is a good point to kind of opine on this for just like a quick second, because fantasy football is different than NFL football. There are guys in the NFL who, if it's your hometown team, I love Tim Patrick, right? Denver Bronco. He's been here for 5 seasons. He's played 2 of the 5 because he's been hurt. From a fantasy perspective, there's no way in hell I'm drafting Tim Patrick at this point, right? But if he gets on the field, I love him. And I'll talk about my love of Tim Patrick. I think he's a really good receiver. There's no fantasy value there. So these is just completely different. You can think
this. Malik Neighbors is this good, but he's this expensive, and his situation is this good.
Exactly.
So you can't be this expensive if you're this good and your situation is this bad. Right? You got to.
That's how I feel about Brock Bowers.
And you got to get rid of him until he's right around here, and then you make your money back. Plus,
you just have to make sure that you're actually getting a good return. I mean, if you're selling them for pennies, which obviously you're not telling people to do, but if you're selling them for nothing just because you don't like the situation, that's not going to help.
You could probably get 2 firsts and a second for him, and in that case, I would just take the cash and wait and buy him back later.
Exactly.
Oh, it just depends on. I mean, you need points. So depending on what you're doing, if you're rebuilding, obviously the easy answer is, just go get some first. But you need points. You need to be able to go get good players. So what are you going to do with those 2 firsts once you have them? I don't know. I guess that's
go get Mike Evans on 2 seconds.
I don't know. That's the Jester. Those are the Jester trades that
exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
If you're not into Malik Neighbors and you somehow have him, go get 2 firsts and Mike Evans. It's so easy. It's the easiest arbitrage you can do.
Well, and Evans is a 1-year rental. You get a couple of picks for him. You know he's going to put up wide receiver 1 to high-end wide receiver 2 numbers again, especially with Baker Mayfield back at the helm. Which, who knew we'd be saying that? Baker Mayfield's back. Thank God.
All right, then go Godwin. Then go get 2 firsts and Godwin for Malik in a second, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if people are paying that price though.
Well, they're paying if you find the right manager, they will consistently.
Yeah, 103 isn't 2 firsts and a second. It's like 2 firsts.
Okay.
All right, guys, this sell conversation has gotten a little bit out of hand, so I think we're going to call it a night on that one. I want to highlight our next show next week. 1 week from today, June 13th, 2024. We'll be back at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have Dynasty trade targets for you on the next episode. It's getting to that time of year, guys, where you got to start churning those rosters if you haven't already. Mr. Chester over there is chomping at the bit for this one. He loves trade talk. So we're going to come to the table with some example trades, stuff that we've seen happening out in the community, whether it's within leagues that we're in. We'll go search for some stuff in MFL. We'll search for some stuff in Sleeper. We'll ask for some stuff from the community. If you've got a trade you want us to talk about, guys, send it to team@optimusfantasy.com. We will check those out. We will highlight them on the show. It's always fun to get the listener feedback, get those listener questions in so we can help you guys win. That's what we're all about. Any question you have, send it to team@optimusfantasy.com. You can find us on Twitter @OptimusFantasy. Drop us a DM, send us a comment, tag us on something, anything, whatever. Now, to round out the show, guys, this is something I want to do every week because the world's kind of an effed up place, right? So let's shout out some awesome stuff. Chester, what do you got for us this week? What do you want to shout out in the world that's been kind of cool over the last, 8 weeks since the last time we saw each other, buddy?
That's what I'm going to shout out. I just moved in with my girlfriend, and the studio is set back up, and this is my first show in 8 weeks, and that's what I'm happy about. So I'm happy to be seeing you guys again.
I love it, man. I missed you. I missed you a lot. It's great to be back. John, you've seen way too much of me over the last probably 3-4 weeks. Besides getting to see me all the time in my beautiful face, what do you want to shout out on this wonderful Thursday in June?
You know what? I did not even know we were doing this, so I didn't really have anything truly planned. But I mean, obviously, I'm excited about the Optimus setup and everything and all that. But really, I'm starting to think about the expo and being able to go there. People are posting pictures online and everything, and it's just bringing back all those memories. So that's what I'm shouting out is going to the expo. All of our friends that we're going to hang out with and drink with and all that kind of good stuff. I can't wait.
I love it, man. I'm thrilled. And this expo is a little bit different. This is a good little marketing moment here. We are going to have a booth at the expo, guys. We are excited. Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be at booth 47. Saturday, we're going to have some betting content, some betting fun. Sunday, we'll have our fantasy fun. We're going to have merch. We're going to have some free giveaway stuff. It's going to be awesome. Now, I'm going to do my shout out real quick. I want to first of all thank Jen, my wife, for helping me with this whole vision. This has been really hard. It's been really stressful. It's been very time consuming for both of us. And I couldn't do it without her. And I want to thank you guys. Like, I want to shout out everybody at Optimus who's helped me with all of this stuff and all these awesome things and hopping on these shows with me. Chester, it's good to have you back in the fold, man. I've missed you, and I'm glad that we're here and it's time for Dynasty Talk. John, is this our third or fourth show this week? I don't know. We've been on a lot together.
Well, I hijacked your pod last night, so does that count?
It does. I think it does. Eric Romoff, C.H. Herms, man, Brad Bolt, and Daniel O'Connell at the NFL show, who's been running and grinding with our social media. I'm just really excited for where this is headed. So I wanted to shout out everyone who's supported us, everyone who's helped us. We got to 100 subs last night during the Best Ball show. We did that. You guys, we got to 100 subs in under a week.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We're almost 400 followers on Twitter. Our social media is doing really well, guys. We appreciate all of the love. Please keep following along. We have a lot of really cool stuff. We've got the website coming here on July 1st. I'm really excited about. Lots of fun written content. None of it from Chester, of course, because he doesn't like to write. But you know what? That's okay. We'll let it go.
If I could read out right.
Well, guys, on that, I think I'm going to get us out of here. It has been a blast. The very first ever Optimus Dynasty Hour. It was great to have you guys.